This is Boomer Life on CL 650.
Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs.
But don't let it snow too much. Nobody wants to shovel this holiday season. We're back. This is Boomer Life on CL 650. Joining us in the studio today from the BC Seniors Living Association, we have Executive Director Marlene Williams, along with Carol Holmes, the President from BCSLA, also the CEO from Insight Housing, Hospitality and Health Services, and we have Tony Baina in studio today. Tony is the Vice President with BC Seniors Living Association. Now, we've been talking about some of the options available for seniors in this province and the best options available, of course, when it comes to aging and providing the best care, the best living and housing accommodations, the best seniors communities that are available. And recently, the BC Seniors Living Association has presented a paper to the government making some suggestions and making certain that you're all on the same page when it comes to language in dealing with seniors living in this province. So you've made the recommendations. What happens next?
Well, I think one of the questions that I get all the time when families and seniors are calling me is affordability. They love the concept of independent living. They love all the social aspect, all the hospitality services, but then they say, I don't think I can afford it. And one of the best kept secrets in this province is a program called SAFER, which is shelter aid for elderly renters.
SAFER.
And it's
okay.
SAFER. And it's a part of a BC housing program.
I've never even heard of it. This is great.
Well, most people haven't. And so we obviously direct them to the website. But one of the benefits of SAFER is that the independent living communities promote it, because what SAFER does is if you can only afford X, then they will top it up so that you can live in an environment that allows you to live safer and more affordable.
So it's a subsidy type of program.
It's a subsidy, and there are some criteria for it, and it's promoted through the independent living community. So I'm going to turn it over to both Carol and Tony, because I know in their communities, their marketing people talk to the seniors about the SAFER program, explain it to them, and give them the ins and the outs of how they can access it and how it could be beneficial to them.
Oh, excellent.
It's true. So I think it's important to know that it is a means-tested program. So it's clearly intended for lower to moderate income seniors, and it is administered through BC Housing, and the senior can make an application, and the senior is choosing the living environment. So the subsidy is not attached to the building, it's attached to the senior, okay. And the senior takes it to the living environment that they're choosing. If I were to give advice to a senior who is looking at retirement communities or family members, this is something you can ask the marketing people about when you tour the facility. They may well even have brochures available to point you in the right direction to access the SAFER program. And in many cases, it does make the difference between, if you can live in that building or if you can't afford to live in that building.
And I think the important thing from a marketing and sales perspective is that we want to ensure that the senior is housed appropriately, and so we want to take away that financial aspect of it by promoting SAFER. And one of our recommendations is to continue to work with the government to ensure that isn't a best kept secret, that it's actually something that seniors and their families know that they have access to and what the rules and regulations are around that, so that again that financial barrier or perceived financial barrier is taken away, and really the focus is on what's most appropriate in terms of a living environment for the senior.
I think your point of being housed appropriately is so important right now, because I think we had mentioned earlier there were actually statistics that there are a fair number of seniors in this province that are not housed appropriately.
Mm-hmm. But I think even more importantly, there's a lot of seniors out there that make the decision to care for each other because they think they can't afford to financially move into an independent living building. So you have a spouse taking care of a husband where the spouse's needs are being ignored because that's the way it's always been. So by taking away that financial consideration or at least lessening the impact of it, it allows them to make the decision that's appropriate not only for the person needing maybe some level of care, but also the spouse and caregiver, who a lot of times burns out or has that difficult task of trying to deal with a situation where they may not be equipped to deal with it. Whereas our homes, our operators in our homes all know how to deal with that, and of course they're in an appropriate social and a caring environment.
I think you'd be hard pressed to find a senior right now who lived through the Depression era that didn't use that argument of saying, I don't have enough money to live in an independent community.
That's correct.
So remind us once again of the recommendations on this paper that you presented to the government, what the most important things were and why it's so important.
Sure. I think, our recommendations really fall into three categories, which is asking the government to continue to support the growth of independent living and understand that it is a key and integral part of the aging process for seniors and the housing process and care for seniors. We've also asked them to continue to support seniors living in independent living. So not to not prejudice against them when it comes to certain programs that they offer to people who live at home, that home should be wherever they turn their key in the lock. And if that happens to be one of our member-operated communities, then those programs should be available to them. Thirdly, is to improve the utilization of assisted living, and there we see it on a number of fronts, but really it's around ensuring that supports are available to residents in assisted living. Secondly, to take a look at making assisted living less restrictive, allowing more choice and maybe allowing further prescribed services to be delivered in the home if the operator can appropriately and safely deliver them. So looking a little bit at the Alberta model, seeing what's best about the Alberta model and maybe adopting that for British Columbia. And then finally also taking a look at the assisted living operators and independent living operators as a place where where seniors in particular can come for respite care, so that when they're discharged from hospital, it doesn't necessarily, the safest place may not be back in their home, but it may be in one of our member communities where they can recover for a short period of time or a long period of time in an appropriate setting where they've got eyes and ears on them 24 hours a day.
So what I'm hearing is if I'm sitting at home wondering where I'm going to go and where I'm going to choose to live in an independent property when I become a senior, or if I'm looking for something for my aging mom and dad, that you're just trying to communicate to the government that we need more options. Is that
yes.
Put simply?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay, so we're changing the definition. Can you just remind us quickly again, what's the difference between independent living and assisted living, Carol?
So independent living is the housing accommodation and an array of hospitality services. So that would include meals, light housekeeping, flat linen service, emergency response, 24-hour staffing model in the building, and social and recreational opportunities. And assisted living takes that and adds to it personal care.
So I'm going to move into a property that provides independent living, a wonderful new community. Tell me the primary benefits of doing this.
Well, there's benefits to the senior and the senior's family. There's benefits to government, and there's benefits to society in general. Certainly, it's a more cost-effective solution for service delivery because you can cluster seniors together where you can have one home support worker, for example, that can provide services to 5 or 6 seniors right in the same building. So there's the economies of scale to that. The provision of opportunities for socialization for seniors is huge. They're not living in isolation anymore. It's amazing to watch seniors come into these communities and they make new friends, and they get into doing things with other ladies or men that they've done all their lives. They like to knit, they like to play bridge, they like to woodwork, and all of a sudden they've got people to do that with again. Improved nutritional status is huge. We pride ourselves on delivering a beautiful food in these environments because if you get the food right, everything else seems to flow. But coming and sitting down in a dining room with your table mates and enjoying, a beautiful roast beef dinner, for example, it's bring your family with you. We encourage that. As Tony has mentioned, respite. It's something that we can do. And the Advocate actually did a report on caregiver stress, and it was entitled Caregivers in Distress. And that's really where you have a couple, both aging, where one is trying to help the other. And as a result of that, both of their health declines.
Fails, yeah.
So you can have a couple come to live in a retirement community where one's health status may be quite different than the other, but with the supports that are available in that building, the couple themselves can remain independent and together, and we're not burning out a caregiver. The 24/7 oversight, I think, provides significant peace of mind for family members, in particular if they don't live locally, because you've got the staff in the building that are making observations of declines or acute episodes or any of those things that can happen that can really affect, the safety and security for the senior. It's a well-known fact that seniors that come to live in independent living and assisted living are lower utilization of hospital days, lower visits to the physician. Their quality of life is improved through the things that we've just talked about, and their health status in general is improved.
Wonderful. An excellent contribution. I could give a million examples from my mother-in-law how she fit into every single category that you just mentioned. You are listening to Boomer Life on CL 650. Joining us in the studio today from the BC Seniors Living Association, we have Executive Director Marlene Williams, along with Carol Holmes, the President of the BCSLA, also the CEO of Inside Housing, Hospitality and Health Services, and Tony Baina joined us today, Vice President from BCSLA. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks for all that you do and your contributions to today's program.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Merry Christmas to all. And Marlene, any final words about why December is so important to start these conversations with your parents while everybody's around the dinner table?
Well, you go home and you visit your parents, and it's always such a fun time because, you've spent your whole life with your parents and with your families and brothers and sisters, and it's such a joyous time. And I think it's a good time to open the conversation to say, do you actually like doing housekeeping? I mean, Mom, you're 81 years old. Do you like doing the dishes? Do you really like doing your own cooking? Wouldn't you like to you used to paint. Wouldn't you love to have more time to paint? And it's just a very subliminal way to sort of let them start thinking, maybe I would like to go and live someplace where I can do the things that I always love to do, but I can't now because I'm doing my gardening, I'm cleaning the house, I'm doing the dishes, I'm cooking the family dinners. And that's how we started with my mom, and it worked extremely well. And it was just, it's making them realize that this is their golden years and they should enjoy it. It shouldn't be chores anymore. It should be, it's my time and I'm going to have fun.
And I think very, very importantly, too, we talked about it before, having those conversations now during a family get-together leads to a less reactive situation when the need does arise, and allows for some planning and for some exploration of some of the options that we put on the table today.
It's a great time to have the conversation. Plant the seed this Christmas. This is Boomer Life with the BC Seniors Living Association on CL 650.